with TraderMerlin show Monday for what will be a chaotic week for the TraderMerlin program. I am doing a short show today. I have a tax appointment at 3 o'clock. Nightmare. I hate tax season. So I'll be leaving this one right at 2:30. We'll make it a short show. Tomorrow I'll do a full normal show, correct? And then I'm going to be in studio filming with Todd Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'm going to see if I can squeeze out and maybe do a show Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, but I'm not sure. At this point, if I had to say, I'd say I'm not going to do a show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just because I got to get these videos done with Todd. But I'll try to squeeze something in because I want to get some, I just don't want to miss the show. I don't want to miss it. All right, let me bring up our topic du jour and go into, first off, let's talk about that eclipse. Pretty cool. Obviously, you're not supposed to stare at those things, but everybody does. I walked outside and a bunch of people just staring up at the sky with regular sunglasses on. I'm like, all right, go call your eye doctor, bud, because you're going to be blind tomorrow. But all in all, it was pretty cool. I did a little pinhole test, and, we get to see a crescent sun out here in California. Nothing really that exciting, but I saw some really nice pictures from those in the Midwest of that phenomenal total eclipse. So that was cool. All right, now back to life and real work. Let's talk about Elon Musk and the statements that were made today, and certainly over the past few months. I don't think this was coming as a surprise to anybody. I've kind of been making the point that I see the future of owning assets is having utility with those assets. And when I say utility of those assets, it means I have something that I've purchased, I own it, and it just sits there useless. Like your Peloton. I always make fun of the damn Pelotons. Like maybe your lawnmower. Like maybe your car, like just for physical devices that when you're not using them, they just sit idle and don't do anything. And there is this economy growing where there are some websites out there you can go and share your blenders or your toasters with your neighbors and things like that. People can rent out appliances that you might have for $1 a day or something like that. But at least brings out some utility to assets that for you are just sitting dormant. Well, a car is a major one. And I talk about the future, which I see at some point in the future, probably the next decade, say about 10 years out, we will have the ability of when we go home at night and park our cars in the garage, we hit a button and now the car can go and join some network that's out there. Maybe you guys will start that network and hire me on as your chief product officer. And your vehicle will go out and work. It'll go out and ride share, give people a ride. It'll be its own portable remote taxi that does all the work for you. It'll go back and plug itself in and recharge when you get home. So when you get there and you need it, your vehicle will be ready. And you could program it in and say, hey, I need you back by 7 a.m. so I can go to work or go to use it for errands. But it's that Robotaxi idea that brings it up to that era of kind of the Jetsons, where you have these flying vehicles and driven by robots. They have just sheer destination targets and go for it. Well, Elon Musk made a statement today that I think was kind of a bit of a magic trick. As we know, Elon Musk is a master of the social media platforms. And Tesla has been on a fairly ugly slide. Let's start with the graphic over here and look at that one. Let's go to TSLA. Morning, Big Eb. So if you look at Tesla chart, it's been on a fairly ugly slide. I've been talking about where I'm interested in buying it. My options expired on Friday. As you guys know, I sold the 160. Yeah, the 160 puts, they expired worthless, which is fine with me. I kind of wanted to own Tesla. Somewhere, any one of these little red lines will be a point where I'm interested in owning Tesla. Either way, it's been a fairly ugly, call it 9 months for Tesla, going from a peak of over, let's see, the high price there is almost $300 per share, and now you're down at 172. So when you have the negativity pouring in, and of course the news from last week, which was we missed inventories, production models and deliveries were down. It didn't look that great. Of course, citing all the problems coming from China and from Germany and US, whatever those issues may be, you point the finger at all the pieces that were costing Tesla money. Well, he made a statement today talking, kind of focusing towards this Robotaxi concept. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a Tesla, and he loves Teslas, and he was talking about how, when you lease a Tesla, there's no lease buyout option because they don't want to give you that car. They want to keep it for a Tesla taxi. I thought that was kind of an interesting thought. Now, I don't know how credible that is, but he was going to try to buy his Tesla, and there was no lease purchase option there. I was like, wow, okay, that's interesting. So what does it all mean? Well, I made this point years ago that I thought that companies like Uber and Lyft will probably be challenged by a robotic taxi fleet. And we already have some of those in the United States. If you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, Phoenix, LA, you have Waymo, right? Waymo is out there and they're collecting data. They do have autonomous self-driving cars in those cities. Another one coming on the line is Zoox, Z-O-O-X, which will be in, I believe it's going to be, I think it's San Francisco and Vegas. They'll be coming online soon with driverless vehicles. Vegas is like the perfect spot for it. Anyway, long story short here, there's already some competition in the industry for self-driving vehicles. Now, the question that everyone is asking is, well, if Tesla does jump in that arena, what does that do to their market share and what's their probability of success? In my opinion, it's a huge success. And I got the graphic here. It says dawn of the Robotaxi. I don't know if it's necessarily the dawn, but I believe we're in the early stages of it. Talking about some of the concepts I mentioned earlier, which are, you can contribute your vehicle to it, or Tesla just outright has a fleet of robotic taxis. Now, of course, we could talk about the economic impact for Uber and Lyft, but what would that do to Tesla's bottom line? And this was an argument that several guests have made on the program, which is it's not just a car company, right? It's a technology firm. One of the very interesting statistics I read, and I'll let you guys interact with me here today. Waymo has collected, since their program has been started, 10 million miles worth of data from their vehicles, right? So that's 10 million miles of those vehicles driving around collecting data. And of course, when you collect that data, you build on it, you make it better, you tailor your algorithms to that data, and it becomes much more efficient and better. That's 10 million since inception, and I can probably go look and see here, but I'm probably going to be looking at maybe 10 years for Waymo. How much do you think that Tesla collects per day? Let me just show that number there. So I've got 10 million for Waymo in, let's say, a decade. Let me just real quickly, because I don't want to get caught by one of you guys saying they've been around for 2 years. How long has Waymo been around? All right, Waymo's been around since 2009. That's when it founded, okay? That was the Google self-driving car project. In 2016, it became Waymo. So let's call it a decade, right? If you've got a decade worth of time and you've collected 10 million miles, how much does Tesla collect per day? And the only reason I bring this up is to show you the colossal competitive advantage that Tesla has. And I've had people tell me, no, other companies' data is better. I don't know if that's the case. GSM has had their crews running in San Francisco for a couple of other cities for about 3 years now. Yep. And they also had a couple of crashes recently, Tom. I remember reading one of the crews that was real bad, and then they said they stopped doing service, but maybe it's back on. Either way, there's competition, right? No doubt there's competition. The number here, Big Eb says 5 million. It's 2.5 million from the stats I read. They collect 2.5 million miles worth of data from their vehicles per day. So, the reason I bring that up is just kind of put those two side by side, and what a colossal difference. If Waymo, who is, I would argue, the number 2 competitor in that right now, probably number 1 because they're actually doing it. But as soon as Tesla comes online with this fleet of old vehicles, lease expired vehicles, or just starts producing vehicles to run robotaxis, that could be a huge business model for Tesla and starts to put a different valuation on it, because think of the valuations from Uber and Lyft, right? Those are multi-billion-dollar corporations, and if all of a sudden Tesla adds that to their core and gets to keep the profit as opposed to letting the drivers get all the profit, that's a pretty substantial business entity. So the dawn of the Robotaxi kind of goes to this question that came in from Mark. Can you talk about Tesla's Robotaxis? How will this work? I'm not sure. I don't think anyone here clearly knows exactly how it works. Does that... Great question, Naomi says, why would Hertz cancel their Tesla order? Maybe that's it. Maybe that's part of it, right? If you get a fleet of Teslas as Hertz, I no longer need to buy and maybe there's a special deal where Hertz can now have the Tesla full driverless vehicles, and you get that at Hertz. Or, you could just go and call up a Tesla and it'll be there to pick you up wherever you need and take you wherever you want to go. If I was Hertz, I'd probably think this could be a threat to my business as well. The times they are changing can be very uncertain. So I don't know whether it's going to be just Tesla is the main issuer and distribution center for all of these Tesla bots or Tesla robotaxis, or if it's something that allows those of you who do have Teslas to plug into their grid and now contribute your vehicle to their robotaxi fleet. All in all, I think it's a huge game changer for the industry. I think it changes, again, Uber, a lot of these rental car companies, depending on what their relationship with Tesla, lift damages going on there. Now, we've talked about this from a perspective of investment opportunities. Do you just go outright and buy Tesla with the thought that this will augment their business and that model will change and all of a sudden we'll see they get the next leg up in their revenue? Or do you go out and look at their competitors who are already in that space and may create that barrier to entry to Tesla, such as Waymo or Zoox? Now, keep in mind, Waymo is owned by Google and Zoox is owned by Amazon. So the big dogs are already in this space and having more and more competition. Hertz had issues with quality, cost, and customer acceptance, mostly for charging. That's why they canceled their Ford Tesla fleet. Would make sense. Some of the Consumer Report reviews on Teslas are not the best performance and reliability reviews for Tesla. So I can't wait for the flying taxi. I'll wait for the driverless taxi first now. I think we would all think it's a fantastic idea, but I'd like to let ideas be proven and tested for a while first. I got no problem in a driverless car. You know, it crashes, fine, I'll get some whiplash. But in a flying car, if that's not tested, it starts to crash. I don't know. I mean, I certainly would love to just call a portable like Tesla helicopter or quadcopter and just fly up to LA and get above all that traffic and have to deal with any of that stuff. Oh man, what an amazing day that will be. But regardless of the little details that change along the way on this path towards automation, I think we would all agree that innovation is going to happen one way or another. And at some point, whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, we will have the option of having full driverless cars. And then it ushers in the question, at what point do we do away with manually driven vehicles of all kinds? Of course, that is probably something that's going to be 30, 40 years down the road, where it's all going to be programmed on the grid. You can't speed. You got to go, we'll see. Big Brother is a world out there with that type of automation. For me, I'm excited about it. I don't own a Tesla. The one piece that really makes me want to buy a Tesla is the FSR, or first FDR, was it? First full self-driver, FSD, full self-driving vehicle. That definitely is one that gets me pretty excited. Taxi drivers will have to leave yeah, well, it's funny. Over here by my house, by John Wayne Airport, there used to be just huge lineup of taxis. Now there's not one taxi there. Taxis for here, at least in my part of Orange County, are almost dead and gone. I can't even believe they still function. I think all of us can remember the day when you used to have a taxi phone number memorized. I think mine was 1-800-4-MY-TAXI was what it was here in Orange County. You all memorized a taxi number. None of us need it anymore, right? So it's just evolution of markets, evolution of, I guess, technology, and it's going to make our world a better place overall. So if we look at those three competitors that I talked about, Tesla being number one on here, I still am bullish on Tesla, not just because of the idea of their robotaxis. I think that their use of AI altogether with robots is the next real big game-changing piece for Tesla, but also I think the Cybertruck will do wonders for their bottom line going forward. And people are posting articles and complaining, saying, oh, well, Tesla missed the boat and nobody's driving the Cybertruck. It's like, yeah, because production's not ramped up yet, right? They started with the minimum production here and they'll start ramping that thing up. I still think it looks really stupid. I personally would not buy the Cybertruck. I think it's kind of silly, but there's a lot of people out there that would gobble that thing up and love to have a Cybertruck. So I think you'll see a lot more of those on the road, and that should be a positive thing. One thing that is for certain, when you look at this industry, you go look at a company like LCID, right? That's Lucid, a competitor in the luxury EV market. Here you've got FSR. No, is it damn it, which one was it? It was Fisker. Let me look it up real quick. Fisker, I forget the ticker symbol, but they're basically done. Oh, they changed their symbol. There's Fisker, right? Their bankruptcy. They're pretty much done. You had GoEV, which had a good day today, but overall they're struggling significantly. So I don't think that there's a lot of optimism right now in the EV space, and maybe that deals with the market slowdown here. People just watching their spending, but a lot of these companies have charts like this. There's Rivian, which also looks like pretty beaten down. So I think that the reason why you've seen Tesla drop is just simply those delivery numbers, production numbers, and demand numbers around the world. What makes Tesla unique, in my opinion, which I know is just mine, is it has multiple facets to its business. Whereas I look at Rivian, I look at Fisker or Lucid, those guys are vehicles only. This is robotics. This is a taxi company, self-driving vehicles, which those other companies may be getting into, but they're not there yet. So interesting times changing here with that market segment. I am bullish on Tesla. A little disappointed my shares weren't given to me. I would love to have bought at 160 on Friday, but oh well. I'm glad I made the premium that I did in a very short period of time. Big Ed says, I drove a Tesla for 4 years, 100,000 miles. It was a great car. Yeah, I've only ridden them a couple times. Excuse me, but the Consumer Reports numbers weren't that great from a reliability service perspective. They weren't at the top of the list, but hey, you're a brand new car company. I don't expect you to be number one to start. Just get there eventually. What else could I see here? I feel like Consumer Reports has always had a dislike for Tesla. They seem to go out of their way to be misleading. Maybe infinitely, maybe. I generally don't read a lot of review stuff, but in this one I was kind of curious to see because I've heard that there were bad reviews. Maybe I can check other sites as well. And say goodbye to those wonderful conversations with taxi drivers. Hey, taxi drivers need love too. Some of those are the fun ones. I mean, I tell you, I love to travel a lot, and one of my favorite things to do is when you get a taxi somewhere, you just start asking them about their favorite spots of their respective city, and a lot of times they open up if they can. Sometimes they're just mean and rude and have want nothing to do with you. JD Powers has had the Tesla ranking 31 out of 32 brands for the last 3 years. Ouch. If your Tesla doesn't start in the morning, who do you call? Are you talking about the Robotaxi side of things? What you're going to get is either roadside assistance from Tesla, or your AAA and tow truck companies now are going to be trained in electric vehicles, because it's a whole different ballgame. You can't roll start. Remember the days when you used to just get in the cab, put it in neutral, and we're going to have 5 guys behind and push the car when we say, just put it in a second gear and pop that clutch and you'll be up and running. Yeah, though gone are the days of roll starting a vehicle. DSNY. Another one, Polestar, yeah. I mean, all those charts look pretty much the same. Real ugly. And I'll be honest, I think at some point, several of these could be great buys. I mean, this was a SPAC, Polestar. My argument with SPACs since the very beginning, the first show that I ever did for you guys on what a SPAC is, I felt that most of these SPACs were overpriced because all they care about is bringing the company public, and they make money off the share price. Time will tell if these are actually legitimate, true businesses. And a lot of the charts of these SPACs look just like this. Very few have really gone on to be very successful IPOs. So, but that doesn't mean that Polestar here can't be something, or that someone comes in there and buys Polestar at a very cheap valuation. I mean, Fisker has got to be a pretty cheap valuation right now. They make a really cool looking car. The Fisker Karma, I actually really like that one. Lucid, I like their vehicles as well. I think they're a bit expensive, but you'll probably see some consolidation in here, and maybe you can get some synergies with a company like Rivian, which is focusing predominantly on this truck and an SUV. Maybe they go in and they buy Polestar, which is more vehicle sedan type pieces, and augment their business that way by merging with another company. I think that could be a realistic possibility in the future for these guys, but right now they're all struggling. The only one that really looks like it's got a dominant market share is Tesla, but I think that that's buoyed because of its multiple faceted business here. That's right, John. Pop that clutch. China stole most of Tesla's EV models, and they're suffering road reduction. Yeah, and then there were shutdowns in China with the production factory as well. Yep. Polestar, I don't know. They were bought by Volvo, I believe, and then they're part of that family. It's not Stellantis, but there's a couple big companies that have bought up all these different vehicles out there. All right, how much time do I got left? I got 9 minutes left, and I got to run. So that was the one piece I want to address today, was just kind of the Robotaxi piece. I do think it's the dawn of it. I'm looking forward to it. I use Uber and Lyft a lot. I am, for one, a huge fan of them, simply from in my perspective, what it's done to drunk driving and people drinking and driving. Anytime I go out and I know I'm gonna have a few cocktails, I'll Uber. Why even take that risk? Now, hopefully, my Uber driver isn't drinking, but at least I'm being a little bit more proactive and being safer. I've never gone and looked up the data. Maybe one of you guys ever had time. Look up the data for drunk driving deaths and accidents in the United States over the past 5 years. I'm willing to bet you that there's been a pretty steady decline in that, even though there still are plenty of arrests and accidents. But it certainly is diminished because I think people are being responsible and saying, hey, I'll just take an Uber. It's going to cost me 10, 20 bucks. Big deal. What happens if you run out of power on the road? Is there a service where the company comes to you and instantly charges your car up for a fee? There is no instant charge. What we're seeing is some technologies have swappable batteries. Tesla is not one of them. But there are some companies that are building a swappable battery function. So you could theoretically have your AAA guy come out, pop the panels, boom, swap in 2 or 3 banks to get you to the next charging station. But that ain't going to be free. I'm sure that's not going to be free. Even if they had a portable generator on the back of their truck like the charging stations are for Tesla, it's still going to take some time to charge those up. So yeah, it's a different dynamic when it comes to breaking down on the side of the road. As these fleets get bigger and bigger, Tesla's eyeing a million Teslas on the road. I think they'll have to do a lot in that segment as well to make owners feel more comfortable about owning their car if it should break down. Certainly covered by some company warning. What do we got here? As you talk about robot taxis, I keep having flashbacks to when scooters were going to take over, and now they just lay around sidewalks in cities. They were occasionally used by 18 to 20-year-old males. Hey, they're fun. The scooters are fun, but scooters are dangerous as heck, man. You're riding, especially in Europe, I rode them a lot. And you're riding through towns that have railway systems and trams, and man, you catch a rut on one of those little Razor scooters that are powered doing 20 miles an hour. Oh man, hope you got some dental insurance. Yeah, I think they're very different, Tom. When you have those cities like San Francisco, or very busy cities that had the bird bikes or the bluebird bikes that you could just rent with that's kind of cool if you live in that city. But now, if it's a rainy day, good luck getting on a bicycle in the city. Now I can just call my Robotaxi. I don't know. I think it's going to do really well. I think it'll actually do very, very well. All right, let me go and look at just what happened in our markets today. A little bit of change in trajectory for some of these markets. Crude oil, for one. We had that little kind of spinning top on Friday's session. Today, gave back a bit of that, right? Came back, it was down 0.55% for crude oil to 86.43. Still not too bad. I wouldn't really worry about the trend. Just a little bit of a reprieve after a really big impulse move up. Dollar index was also down just slightly by 0.14%. We had that nice hammer formation on Thursday, follow through on Friday, and today giving back those gains. So fairly unchanged, still near the top end of that range for the dollar index. Now, NASDAQ, slightly down, right? We rebounded up yesterday on Friday's session, came right back up to the origin of that move, which was 18,375. Thought we'd get down to that 18,000 level. We got close, but didn't quite get there. Made it as low as 18,055. So missed it by about 55 points. All in all, unchanged on the day. Same as the S&P 500. It was very boring. It's just one of those days where you look at the markets for a little while and finally I just got up and said, okay, there's nothing here that I feel confident with or it has a high probability for me. So just left it alone. I didn't do anything today. 10-year. Notice the shooting star on today's 10-year. That was probably the most identifiable chart pattern for me when I did a quick little view here before the program. It looks like a shooting star right here, which typically would mean the momentum has been slowing and weakening on that yield, which may mean a little bit of a pullback here, getting down to that 4.35 mark. We're only at 4.42 as we speak. All right, podium time. Man, metals just keep on ripping. And it's not just gold. You guys can see in the gold chart here is up 0.24% on the day, closing at 2,351. But real quick, let me just take a peek at some of these other metals. Just gains across the board. You had a big day for palladium, it was up 4.28%. Platinum was up 3.66%, which has a breakout move as well. Nickel was up, but I don't really follow nickel's chart. Silver continuing to rip. It's doing this just to spite me. You guys know I have calls against my long positions on SLV at 23.50, and today I'm pretty sure those are going to get taken away from me. It's already at 25.40, $2 higher. That is remarkable. All right, I just watch it go. Let's watch it go. And copper as well, still posting great gains, trending higher. So metals, commodities doing pretty darn well, except for crude oil today. All in all, a very bullish day for them. Now, Russell 2000 was your only index that was really positive, 0.49%, but technically there's nothing going on here. And finally, back to Bitcoin. Now, I've got this symmetrical triangle or pennant formation drawn out here. You see that there's again, two things that have happened here recently. Number one is we've broken that downward trend line that connects the bodies of the top here. So that's a very bullish sign. Second one is we've kind of closed above the range here that goes back to late March. That's your second real positive sign. The third piece will happen once we break these highs, and then it's going to be off to the races again for Bitcoin. So you really needed to get above 74,415, which, you know, based off the way it moved today, it was up 4,300 bucks per Bitcoin today. That could easily happen in the next couple of days. So right now it feels like momentum is back into Bitcoin. The good news for all of us who are long Bitcoin is notice that trend just has not been broken. Right? We did have a pullback, didn't make a new high, but the pullback was even lower on the second attempt, therefore forming this pennant formation. And really, the only time we've seen any real weakness in this thing was back in January when it started to make some new lows. And from mid-January, it's just been ripping ever since. So we could see more rips right into that halving, which we'll do a show on the halving next week when I get a little bit more free time. That is your your run through of market indicators and markets. Let's go take a peek at our economic calendar for tomorrow, since I have 2 minutes left for this show, and it'll be one of the only 30-minute shows I've done in a long, long time for this program. As you can see for today, there really wasn't anything noteworthy for the United States. Actually, there's nothing for the United States. Now, if I look at tomorrow, we do have a couple pieces for the U.S. That's going to be the NFIB Small Business Index and TIP IBD Economic Optimism, which is actually getting worse. They're expecting the economic optimism to get worse. Here's your chart of that. Basically, no one's had any optimism since mid-2021. we dipped below the 50% mark back in September of 2021 and hasn't been back since. So, oh man, ugly as far as economic optimism. But tomorrow night, we have a rate announcement from New Zealand. They're expected to stay the same at 5.5%. So if you are trading the Kiwi, keep your eye on that one. Looks like the candles are along as well, yeah. We like it. Momentum, right? See that surge, especially what happened out there today. Any thoughts on the IPO? Don't know that one. Let's good to see you, Mike. Thanks for coming down. Hope you had a good event at OTA there. DXYZ. Oh, wow. You know my thoughts on IPOs, Mike. Typically, I am not going to touch anything like this. What in the hell is this thing? Destiny Tech 100 Incorporated. IPO'd on the 24th. Jeez Louise. IPO'd on the 24th at $8.25. It's already at 99. It's already at 111 bucks. Man, this thing is going to be crashing. Crashing. I'm not going to go long. You guys. Tom, Big Ab, I can't take you guys anywhere. All right. That's going to do it for me. Let me wrap up the show. So thank you to Mark for the Robotaxi question. Yeah, I think the future looks bright. I'm excited about it. The crazy thing, for me anyway, will be when we have these Robotaxis, does that mean that it removes the moron drivers? Does that remove the idiots who sit in the fast lane when it says 65 and they're doing 50? Does that remove all the morons that need to put on their makeup or eat dinner or lunch or breakfast or do whatever they have to do as opposed to just drive their damn vehicle on the road? I hope so. And it may bring some semblance of efficiency back to these roads, where I think in Germany, if you've ever driven in a German road, it is the best drivers. They are the best drivers in the world. They respect the rules. They pay attention when they drive. They'll move over if you're on their tail end. Like I will leave my bumper, my license plate on yours if you're not moving. Get out of my way. Move over and let me pass. But you're speeding, Merlin. Doesn't matter. That's my problem, not yours. Get over in the slow lane and move. I hope that the taxis circumvent that problem. Although I have seen an autopilot for Tesla that was stuck in the fast lane doing 65 miles an hour and people just were forced to pass it. Clearly because the guy was asleep. All right. That's going to do it for me. I already passed it. I know. I made it to 31, so it's kind of a win. Chris says, most electric companies that service your house out of California do mobile vehicle charging as well. Yeah, but I think that the tow truck companies are going to have to be retrained. I'm sure some of them already are. I mean, you would be foolish not to have your tow truck drivers trained in electric vehicle maintenance, because obviously different ways to roll them onto the platforms, different ways to start them, everything's different on. So anyway, that's going to do it for me. Tomorrow will be a normal show, and then I'll let you know tomorrow when I get more clarity about what my schedule looks like for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Probably not doing shows those 3 days just because I got to get a bunch of stuff recorded. But if there's an opening that comes up, I may. But right now, no shows Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But I will do one for you guys tomorrow. And I'm probably going to do one on consistency of trading per that gentleman's question from a couple days back. So I will Hopefully I have some time this evening to prepare that, along with all my trivia rounds for tomorrow. That said, have a fantastic remainder of your day, guys. If you have questions, send them on in at TraderMerlin@gmail.com or put them down below any of the YouTube videos. Until then, happy trading. I will see you tomorrow.